Obviously, this day is huge, but sometimes very anticlimactic. And I think if we do things the way we're supposed to do them, it should be that way. So today was kind of that day. There's no real surprises. We did what we wanted to be able to do, and we feel really good about it. I think when you initially look at it, everybody will start to wonder. It's not just last year that we talked about, hey, rankings matter because you were first in the league and ranked really high, obviously, nationally. And we don't not talk about them this year because, the reality is you're ranked a little bit lower. But when you sign 13 guys, which we did today, so we signed 13 guys, which still gives us a lot of flexibility for January and February, which was what we really believed we needed to do. We weren't going to jump into taking some of these extra slots. So we feel like we've got a really good mix. I think we're defensive heavy a little bit in the 13 guys that we signed, but I think we addressed what it is that we need to do and move them forward. I think the thing that's not probably talked about nearly as much is there's 4 guys that somebody doesn't look at and think that are in this class. Darius Harper's a guy that transferred last year. We took in the summer. He was a basketball kid from Miami of Ohio that transferred to us, really counts into this class. Cam Jeffries was a grad transfer who obviously started for most of the year for us. And I don't know if you're going to get a better recruit than that as a guy that could walk in. So he really kind of, for us, counts in this class. Ryan Montgomery was a guy we were going to sign last year, but really gray-shirted, so we put him. He's already actually started with us, so he really counts in this class. And then James Hudson, who has transferred, but will really go in this class. So where we signed 13, that's really 17 guys that we're looking at to be a part of this class right now, with some flexibility to have 5, potential initial spots that are still left out there for us to really kind of pound the pavement and do what we need to do for January and then the February sign day. Last year, if you looked at it, we got probably 3 of our higher rated recruits and guys that have really helped us with Leonard Taylor and Tavion Thomas and Majay Sanders as guys we signed last year in February. So it was kind of a plan for us to make sure that we had some flexibility with our January recruiting to give us an opportunity to continue to figure out what it is we need and find out what else is out there that's going to give us an opportunity to be a better program and team and take us forward.
Questions? What kind of endorsement did Mike Warren give James Hudson?
Obviously a very good one. I think that that's one of those things with James is he obviously sees the success that Mike is having, and I think that everybody wants to see the national notoriety, and for him to have this opportunity that he believed that this was the best thing for him. Not only the best place, but the best opportunity for himself to continue to develop and get himself to where he really wants to go. So there's just a lot about connections, whether it's connections with coaches when you're recruiting guys, connections with guys on your football team. When you're building what it is that you want, the best recruiters you got are the guys that are on your team. And I think that Mike did a great job. Mike's family did a great job. But, really it came down to what was best for James. And I think James, realized and saw something here that he really believed he could thrive in this environment, in this culture, and really believe he can reach his goals and dreams doing it here.
In each of your 3 classes, you've gone pretty heavy in defensive back again this year. Can you talk about Justin Harris and Ahmed Gardner first and their ability at cornerback?
Yeah, and Shep. I mean, all those guys, we're trying to make sure that we can increase the athletes. And when you can find guys that can run and guys that have length, it gives you flexibility. Those guys, we see them as corners. We see Shepard maybe as a DB, possible wide receiver. But those guys give you flexibility. When you bring guys in that you could say, hey, these guys have an opportunity to play multiple different spots. Meaning they could be a wide receiver, they could be a DB. We've brought guys that could be quarterbacks that then flip to wide receiver and corners. I think that's what we're looking for. We're not just looking to shove that peg in a hole, but we're looking for a guy that's an athlete, a guy that could help you in many different ways, because we believe the best thing we're going to do here is develop guys. And we develop them better than anybody else. And that means getting the right guys in here and then letting them figure out what are they. There's some guys that think they're wide receivers and all of a sudden they become defensive backs, or think they're DBs and they become wide receivers. Think that they're maybe a tight end and become an offensive lineman. We've done that as well, and we're going to continue to do that because I think we believe in the development of what we do and how we do it.
Was there an extra pressure on Freeman and McKinsey from Wayne to let you
There's always a lot of pressure here. So there was a lot of pressure to see if who would be the first guy to get their guys signed in. But yeah, it is. I mean, I think those are the connections. I think those are the things when you truly believe in what your philosophy is and to recruit the state of Ohio and recruit the 300-mile radius, those connections are big. And we know what recruiting is all about. Yeah, it's a right fit and all those different things, but it's about relationships. And for those guys to have the relationships that they have at that school, in that community, it gives us a great advantage. And I think Justin's going to be a great player for us. I think he's a guy that can come in right away and provide some value right off the bat. I mean, speed and athleticism, we looked at as one of the best guys we've had in camp since we've been here. So we're really excited about what he can do.
Is the benefit of a season like the one you just had a better chance to get kids you would have been in on previously, or a legit shot to get kids that maybe would have been graded a little bit higher?
No, it is, but we got to be careful, and I think that's where, coming off of a really good year, that we still got to make sure we stick to what it is that we believe in. It's getting the right ones. We look at rankings, we do all that. If they're gonna have a ranking, then obviously we're gonna fight to win. I mean, we want to win in everything we do, but we still got to make sure we don't lose sight of what can be successful, what we believe can be successful here. So I think there's a little bit of a balance. I think the success we had on the field this year even shows up more in the next year's class, because the adrenaline, the energy that we've created, with positive, with the success on the football field, really has even more of an effect on those sophomores and juniors. I'm not saying it didn't have an effect on these guys. I think it'll have a much bigger effect in January in our recruiting, because January will be different. It will be an opportunity for us maybe to go get on some guys that maybe we don't have as good a relationship, didn't know about them as early. Maybe they played a lot better their senior year, and they've got a lot of opportunities in the way we've handled our business and what we've done, putting ourselves a little bit more in the national spotlight. I think it's going to give us a great opportunity in January. And I think that's why we kind of, strategically said, hey, let's make sure that we've got some flexibility for January so we can continue to do what we need to do and ride the wave that our team and our program has created this year.
You talked about recruiting Ohio. Half this list is from Ohio. How?
Only half?
7 out of.
Yeah. Ohio and the 300-mile radius, but yeah.
I mean, just how much pride, I guess, is it to have homegrown talent? I mean, is that part of the big?
It is. It is. I think we recognize that. We know there's great football here. We're going to continue to recruit this state. That's where everything starts for us, and it starts within that 50-mile radius we call the state of Cincinnati. Then it extends, obviously, to the state of Ohio. 7 of our 13 that we signed today are from Ohio, but 12 of the 13 are from the 300-mile radius, which is what we really kind of sell everything we've got on is inside that 300-mile radius, because we know those people the best. They play the brand of football that we think fits best walking in the door here. But I think that we're not going to change, and that's why I said just because you have success on the field, you have some momentum and energy that's created, you don't go away from your roots. It doesn't mean you go all of a sudden and start recruiting 2 or 3 guys from South Carolina or Georgia. We still, 70%, 75% of our core crux of what it is we want to do wants to make sure it's within that 300-mile radius, and I think that we're going to continue to stick to that.
You got a couple of quarterbacks. One of them is rather large. Is he a quarterback?
Well, we'll see. Who am I to tell him he can't play quarterback? I think that's the conversation I had with him as we sat down even last weekend and talked. I said, I'm not one to tell you can't play quarterback. I might have an opinion that might matter as you get here, but it matters now too. So, I think that he has a burning desire to play quarterback. We're going to give him every opportunity to play quarterback and then see where it goes from there. I know that he's the right kind of kid. We want him in our football program. If he's playing quarterback, he's going to be a very good one, because he's going to have to beat out some really good guys. And if he's not, then he is such a diehard competitor. He is such a football player. He's so dead set on being a great player that he doesn't really care. He has a burning desire to be a quarterback, but he has a bigger burning desire to be a great football player and have an opportunity to play at the next level. And I think that he'll figure out whatever's best, but I know that no matter what position he is, he's the kind of kid we want in our football program.
Michael Lindauer is a kid that was one of the best passers in Indiana high school football history. Why is it you think he maybe went under the radar a little bit? How were you able to get it in the fold?
He's one of probably the few guys in the last few years that I would say has went under the radar. It doesn't happen as much anymore. I mean, I think guys are more over-recruited than they are under-recruited. And he might be one of the ones I've seen, the first one I've seen in the last 4 years that I'd say, why did we not know about this guy earlier? Why have not more people been on him? I don't know why. You know, to go to 3 state championships in football, to obviously be a 3-sport, you know, basketball and a very good baseball player as well. I think that, you know, maybe with doing all those things, he doesn't do what 95% of the rest of the country that's out there that wants to play college football do, and, you know, shop around and go to camps and do all those kinds of things, when in reality in the summer he was playing baseball or playing basketball, and, you know, throughout every season he didn't have any free time, you know. So again, he's that kind of kid, as I got a time to know him, that is a competitor. And, you know, he sold me from day one as we sat there at the table, and all he talked about was being competitive in everything he did, and he's never had an opportunity to just focus on football. You know, he's playing basketball now, he's going to play baseball in the spring, and he believes that when he focuses on football, the sky's the limit, and I believe him.
You're starting to get a cadre of young, talented quarterbacks, running backs. Is there a thing as having too much talent, too much depth?
I mean, one of the guys, we were out there practicing yesterday, and we were practicing some of the young guys, and I think Cortez was standing next to me. He's like, hey, Coach, how many tailbacks can we have on this team? And I kind of said, well, what do you mean? He's like, we got like 9 guys. I said, well, some of those guys might even be walk-ons, but they got a chance to be really good football players. And, I mean, if you look at it, if you're a high school coach, where are you going to put your best player? Probably at quarterback or at tailback. And the more of those guys that we can continue to recruit, they get in here, they're the right kind of people, they find a place. You know, not everybody can carry the football, we know. You know, Mike Warren was unique this year, and his ability to carry it an average of 30-some times a game. That's not exactly what we want to do. We'd rather have distribution, because then we got an opportunity to play our best at the end of the year. And quite frankly, at the end of the year, Mike was beat up, you know, because of how we had to use him throughout the entire season. So I think we'll do a better job of that. And it's a tough position. I mean, there's no position, O-line I know, but no other position that takes the beating that a tailback takes. You know, with the systems that everybody, the RPOs and things, that they're getting hit every single play, whether they have the ball or they don't have the ball. So I think you need a bunch of them.
What about quarterback? Is it, you know, a lot of young guys, is that something you're worried about or thinking about?
No, I don't, because, you know, competition kind of sorts everything out, and competition makes everybody better. If we don't have how's Dez going to get better? There's only one way. Yes, we're going to coach him. Yes, we're going to push him. Yes, he's internally driven. But unless there's true competition, there's no other way to get better. And so I think as we continue to do those things, we'll continue to create that. And then the guys that are coming in know that there's guys in front of them. That's what excites you about him. You know, Ben Bryant loves the idea that he's got to work his butt off, you know, to get to where Dez is. And then Michael Lindauer coming in believes that, hey, I know I haven't focused on football yet, and I believe that if I work at everything I need to do, I'll have an opportunity as well. And that's the attitude. You don't want anybody walking the door think they're going to be handed something. So those guys that are coming in knowing they've got somebody like that in front of them, you know, they're made the right way.
Now that you've gone through this cycle a couple of times, what do you think of the early recruiting window?
I think it's a little unique. Last year at this time, I was kind of curious as to how many guys would actually sign today. You know, I'm thinking, was it going to be 50, 60? In the past 2 weeks, I was calling around, asking a lot of guys, my buddies, hey, what are you doing? Is every one of your guys signing? Are you pushing them to sign? And that kind of came out last year. I think they said 76%, you know, of the kids all signed in December. I actually would have thought it was higher, you know. So I think that just trying to figure that trend out, that you know, you don't want to sit and wait. But I think that, you know, for us and where we are in the program, I think 70% of our team are freshmen and sophomores. We thought that, hey, we just, you know, let's don't push it. Let's make sure we get what we need to get in December. But let's make sure last year, I think if maybe we'd have had a couple more in January, we, you know, might have been able to take some shots at some other guys. You know, the 3 guys that we took in January got an opportunity to be great players for us. You know, I already mentioned all 3 of those guys. And, you know, even the guys you took as late transfers, and the Dino Boyd, who came as a grad transfer, who ended up being all-league for us. So there are some opportunities for us to, in January, do a really good job and to find ways to make our team better. So for us, I think it can really be good, you know, and you can get locked in December and then know what it is you need to do in the January for the February signing date. But I think it'll change again. I think the landscape of college football with, teams playing in postseason, and I mean that in the championship games, they're 1 week less of recruiting that they get. If they ever do change and add another team into a playoff, there's another 1 less week. It's going to run right into the date of this early signing. So I don't know that we have it all figured out, and I think it's going to continue to change.
As a junior, Eric Phillips was a 210-pound tight end, and then he showed up here for a visit at 280. How do you evaluate that? Because you didn't have any film on him, and then obviously he played outside linebacker at 285 pounds.
There's a lot of projections to be done. I think that's when you know your kids more than anything. That's what you know about those guys within the 50-mile radius. I'm talking, we know everyone in some way, somehow, know every teacher that he probably has. So we get a good perspective on who he is as a person, as a kid, and as a student. And those things go a long way in our program, to having him at some other opportunities to be over here and get personally to know him. I saw him play in person before he got hurt, his junior year. So there was a lot of things that we had an opportunity to see, and a lot more opportunities for us to have our hands on him. Whether it was camp, whether it was some other club situations that we had an opportunity to have him in. So we know more about him than probably anybody else in the country, and what that probably says why we were one of the first guys on him. And I think he's got a bright future. He's another guy that nobody's talking about what position he is, but he could be a lot of different things. Malik Vann came in bigger than he was than he is right now last year. Because we kind of slimmed him down and trimmed him up and changed his body a little bit. And Eric's another one. He's going to walk in here and he's going to get in the weight program, and Coach Collins is going to get a hold of him. And I'm not sure exactly what he's going to look like a year from there. But I know this: he's a football player. He can play a bunch of different positions, and I think that's what intrigues us the most.
Trey Tucker, you talk about speed, legit 4'4", sub 4'4" guy. Is he one that not only can help you on offensive wide receiver but special teams?
I think he's a guy that we talk about as a return specialist at times too. But as you see throughout the league, I mean, you can evaluate the games that we didn't do as well in, and I'm talking UCF and some of those things. Our league is a speed league, and we got to make sure that even though we pound the football and we win up front, that's the core philosophy to who we are. We've got to create and have that speed as well. And there's not like I say, you're going to have a bunch of 5'8", 5'9" guys on your team, but to have ones with unique speed like that can do some different things, I think he brings something to the table. I mean, I would expect him to be the state champion in the 100 meters. Whether he's a 10.5 guy, 10.6 guy, I don't want to sell him short. Maybe he's below that. I know this: he can run, and when you put pads on, he still runs well. So I think there's difference in track times and what guys really do on the football field, and I think that he's one of those guys that translates really well. I think that there's a lot of things you love about him. Again, he's another one of those guys we had our hands on probably more than anybody else we've got in this class. Him and Eric are two guys. And, the intangibles that he will bring, I know that there's a lot of comparisons to some former guys from here that played at his high school that were great players. And I don't know J.K. and all that went through and how he developed as a football player here. But I know what it is that we've watched and what I've watched. When I took this job and when I talked about it, I said, I think we're going to do a pretty good job in the GCL. I think I'll be spending a lot of time around there, not just recruiting, but with all the kids that I have and the extra opportunities I have, whether it's youth sports or whatever, to get around those guys. And I think that's one of those things that is paying off for us. Those guys are going to walk in here from a school like that and the success that they've had and be exactly what it is we want. They're not a finished product. I know they're going to grow and do a lot of things, but the structure and the way we go about it, the culture and the environment that we have created, they'll be able to fit and thrive in right away.
Two more, Chad and Justin.
One more kind of sleeper on this list, Dorian Holloway. Not a lot of people knew about him, and he committed and kind of popped up. Tell us about his ability and his size and his length.
He might be the one I was worried about even in the last couple of days as much as anything, and I don't mean because I was worried about him as a person, but he was a guy that was really under the radar. Last year wasn't at the same high school, transferred high schools, came in the first 5 games, blew it up, and ended up running into a transfer thing and didn't get to play a whole lot. And I think it cost some people some, not sure, so they kind of backed off a little bit. And I think from the time he, obviously went in, and our connections at Marion Franklin High School with his high school football coach gave us a chance to, be on him real early. And I think he's got a bright future. He's another basketball kid. He's a kid that probably from the time he was 10 years old had all the hoop dreams. I'm going to be an NBA guy. I'm going to go play college basketball. Probably through his sophomore year and into his junior year, he was the same way. And then all of a sudden he kind of, realized that I might have a greater opportunity. I love football too. He loved the physical nature of the game. And so he made a decision to go the football route. And I think that was really big for him in transferring schools and getting into a school where, he'd be better seen and play some better football. He's the guy that I'm going to take a peek at him now when he's 6'2", 204 pounds or whatever he is right now, running around the basketball court, and come see him again in 1 year, and I'm not sure you'll be able to recognize him. That's just what I think, that his ability to change and adapt in our program. I think he's got a chance to be a really, really good one and a difference maker for us.
The hypothetical scenario of losing a commit to maybe a bigger school or quote-unquote power conference, is that collateral damage for you having more success in the field and being on those types of players?
I think if we're on the right ones, that in those last weeks, those last few days, there's going to be more battles. And I think that's what you look at as a positive. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it makes you mad. My wife will say to me, you wasted a lot of time, didn't you? I'm like, no, I'd do it again tomorrow. That's what we do. And if we're on the right ones, that you're going to be a little bit worried even the night before, because you got some really good football players, and some guys are going to be calling and trying to sneak in, whether they didn't know who they were. I think the job that we've done in 2.5 years, and I don't mean that on the field, I just mean in the recruiting and the process and the way we go about it, people are going to watch. People are going to see, who are these guys on? They all of a sudden are seeing the development of some of the guys that we've taken, and they start to believe you got an eye for evaluations. And I think that's where I'm happy with what our recruiting department has done, what our coaches have done. So you can't be upset. I mean, yeah, you can be upset, but you can't stop doing it. You can't stop trying to get in those battles because you get your heart broken, you get your feelings hurt because a guy makes a bad choice and decides he wants to go someplace else when deep down inside he should be here. But you know what, if they're not the right ones, and especially if a guy that would give you his word and then go back on his word, you can look right there on the wall. The number one core value of the program is honesty. And all of a sudden, when you start your relationship on dishonesty, whether we're recruiting them or they're recruiting us, it's probably not going to work out in the long run. So we get the right ones, and we'll do a better job than about anybody at developing them, and I think that the end product will be seen.